The holodeck is older than one might believe, originating in the 60s. Gene Roddenberry conceived the room for the third season of the original series, though his involvement, or lack thereof, in Star Trek's final year put paid to its installation. The animated series would get the credit for bringing the recreation room to life, though the Next Generation would contain the first utterance of holodeck in reference to this magic box. A question of credit later, the wonderful room of fun and sin was firmly part of the furniture from Encounter at Farpoint onwards, wobbly rocks and all. It served as an introduction method for fan-favourite characters and the locale for some questionable clientele. Holographic characters may be rewritten, but the need for fun and games on a 5-year mission is a fixed point in time. With nearly 60 years of history behind it, and an ever-evolving backstory thanks to sequels, prequels and midquels, the holodeck is as rooted in Trek lore as the Transporter or Riker's Beard. Speaking of Riker's Beard, holograms have been born, walked through those doors, or did they, and become just as important as their flesh and blood counterparts outside. Mobile emitters or no, there's something to be said about a fantasy, or two, that follows you home. We know so much more about how these inventions work, yet along the way we also learned a stark, terrifying truth. Have all the fun you like, but someone's got to clean those filters. Oh, and sometimes a holographic bullet can kill too. I'm Sean Ferry for TrekCulture, and here are 10 things we now know about the holodeck. Number 10. Mind that AI. Too much of a good thing is never positive, as La'an Noonien Singh discovered in a Space Adventure Hour. The recreation room, or holodeck, more on this in a moment, was proposed by Starfleet as a solution to the rigours of long-term space travel. The best laid plans and all that. This third season episode of Strange New Worlds is set in 2261, several years before The Practical Joker, the episode that first introduced audiences to the Rec Room. While crafting the story, particular care had to be paid to this bit of wibbly-wobbly time travel. How to invent the light bulb before electricity had found its way on board. The answer was simple: invent it, then break it. That method had worked for holographic communication technology in Such Sweet Sorrow, so why not for holographic entertainment here? Amelia Moon could have been the last hard-boiled detective to walk those yellow and black tiles, save for a last-minute brainstorm from Montgomery Scott. To prevent the holodeck from draining power and resources from every other system, give it plenty of both, purely dedicated to its needs. In truth, A Space Adventure Hour walks the fine line of being a prequel but wanting to play with the sequel's toys. It largely succeeds, retroactively using the writer's ideas from Voyager's Parallax by suggesting that it has its own reactors to ensure that the next test would be more successful. The episode also cements one piece of holodeck lore right from the very beginning. Those safety protocols have never bloody worked. Number 9. It's a mucky job, but someone's has to do it. Depending on who's assigned to the task, cleaning out the holodeck biofilters can be a surefire way to force someone to request a transfer. Brad Boimler may have been stoked to get the assignment in Tuvix, but the same could not be said for Beckett Mariner in Moist Vessel. Even the name of the episode leaves an uncomfortable association there. The holodeck could be used for all sorts of adventures, though action and romance seemed to be the highest on the list. While no one ever discusses the impact of Riker's latest jazz venture in The Next Generation, the true impact of his imagination becomes crystal clear in Star Trek Lower Decks. In their attempt to encourage Mariner to leave the Cerritos, Captain Freeman and Commander Ransom decide to give her the worst assignments on the ship. That includes holodeck biofilter cleaning. There is no ambiguity about this role. Ransom despairs at the idea of finding something worse for her to do. The biofilter was designed to capture any organic residue left behind by the holodeck's users. In a training or sparring program, this could be as simple as sweat or perhaps blood if the user is operating Klingon or Hirogen style. If there has been a particularly wild night at the Bourbon Street Barn, the Great Bird of the Galaxy gives his toughest battles to his strongest officers. Number 8. I think, therefore I am. How important can one piece of paper be in the grand scheme of things? According to Maurice Hurley, it can make or break an episode and change the fate of a character entirely. In Elementary Dear Data, one piece of paper resulted in a changed ending and an unanswered mystery. Quoted in the Star Trek The Next Generation Companion 2nd edition, Hurley described a deleted ending to the episode, one in which both Moriarty and Captain Picard were playing a very different game. According to Hurley, Picard was tipped off to Moriarty's hand. He knew because when Data came out and showed him a drawing of the Enterprise, when he knew that paper had left the holodeck, he knew Moriarty could as well, so he lied to him. Picard, knowing that the paper could leave the holodeck and thus that the holodeck's failsafes were no longer working, lied to Moriarty to convince him to relinquish control of the Enterprise. Though his version of the ending seemingly sets the stage for Ship in a Bottle nearly 4 years later, it was removed by Gene Roddenberry. According to the captain's logs, the unauthorized Complete Trek voyages, Hurley believed that Gene felt it made Picard's deceit of Moriarty seem underhanded or less than stalwart. Hurley disagreed, believing that it made Picard seem clever. Though Hurley would leave the series by the end of that year, this plot would finally be revisited in the show's 6th season. Number 7. Fancy a pint? In times of crisis, head to your local holographic boozer and grab a drink. It may not be real, but it's safe, it's comfortable, and it's got its own power source. Standard issue in the late 24th century, but it wasn't always so. A Space Adventure Hour tips its hat to the holodeck as it functioned from Star Trek Voyager onwards, as an independent system free from the rest of the ship's power supply. Scotty's suggestion seems to have taken a while to implement, as it was still connected to the rest of the ship as late as Booby Trap. In this 3rd season episode of The Next Generation, Geordi works with a holographic Dr. Leah Brahms, only for their simulation to abruptly cut off when the Enterprise's power reserves begin to drain. By Voyager's 1st and 3rd seasons, the holodeck now had a power supply that wasn't impeded by the requirements of the rest of the ship. Star Trek Picard introduced the idea that the holodeck could serve as a sort of disaster deck, with an autonomous power supply offering shelter to a crew in need. It was here that Picard and Jack Crusher began to thaw the ice in no-win scenario, though Captain Shaw's memories of Wolf 359 killed that happy moment shortly afterwards. Number 6. A goodbye in any other colour. The holodeck has always been a fun way to escape the confines of the future, exploring retro and pulp locales, allowing the regular cast to have a little fun. While A Space Adventure Hour delivered a detective story for the ages, it was an evolution of an old idea. For now, say hello to the Big Goodbye. In The Next Generation's 1st season, the Big Goodbye was the true introduction to the holodeck, despite 1 or 2 earlier appearances. It was here that the room conjured interactive characters, thanks to an upgrade, which then immediately starts to go wrong. Go figure. Star Trek has experimented in style before and after this episode, but it was almost the first true noir episode of the franchise. Writer Tracy Torme and director Joe Scanlon used recognisable motifs from existing detective stories, with the Maltese Falcon serving as the biggest inspiration. Their original plan was to depict everything that happened on the holodeck in black and white, much like the film, and securing its noir setting. Rick Berman and Robert Justman nixed the idea. According to the Star Trek The Next Generation companion, they both believed that the holodeck would not have the ability to change the appearance of the ship's crew, which would then lead to them sticking out in colour for the rest of the programme. Star Trek Voyager would later employ this idea in such episodes as Night, Bride of Chaotica and Shattered, while Star Trek Prodigy would do the same in their episode, Ghost in the Machine. Number 5. When is an abbreviation not an abbreviation? Recreation Room has a nice ring to it, don't you agree? If you're stuck for time, why not shorten it down to the absolutely makes perfect sense holodeck? An abbreviation or a nickname, you decide. Here, however, we're discussing the Rec Room, introduced in The Practical Joker in 1973. There is, however, a play within a play here. Is it Recreation Room or Recreation Room? It may be a question of pronunciation, though function comes into play as well. The room with too many names was first used with holograms in the animated series, but crew lounges and recreation facilities had been standard issue since at least the early 2260s. Recreation rooms had been used for crew members to relax in episodes like Charlie X, The Conscience of the King and The Trouble with Tribbles. These variations were better suited to 3D chess than 3D imaging, perhaps as a result of the Amelia Moon debacle. Budget cuts to Star Trek killed the idea of a holographic entertainment room by the show's 3rd season, according to Inside Star Trek The Real Story. This led to the question of credit mentioned in the introduction in this article. Gene Roddenberry proposed the room for this season, but was shot down. DC Fontana, though crucial to the 1st season of the animated series, had left that show before The Practical Joker. When she worked on The Next Generation, she was adamant that the writing staff didn't remember that episode while creating the holodeck, as per Star Trek the Magazine, Volume 1. Sometimes lightning can strike twice, and sometimes a whisper of an idea can take root. Either way, the room has different names, different inauguration dates, and different uses, and still breaks at every opportunity it can get. Number 4. Some of the coolest holographic tech came from the Mayans. If you'll allow me a little indulgence, Voyager's sickbay effectively serves as a dedicated holodeck, without which the Doctor couldn't initially have existed. For the Phage, this technology became a focal point for the introduction of Star Trek's latest villains, the Vidians. When creating this new race, Jerry Taylor took inspiration from Mayan history, particularly that of human sacrifice and cannibalism, but focusing on why they committed such acts. According to Cinefantastique, this, combined with Brannon Braga's idea of a new villain that resembled Frankenstein's monster, gave the Vidians their motive. Their first victim was going to be Tom Paris, who would lose his heart to them, and that in the least romantic way possible. Lacking this vital organ, the Doctor would create a new holographic replacement. Though the logistics of this, such as confining another member of the main cast to sickbay, proved too much for the producers to consider, it gave birth to Neelix's lost lung, and to the idea that holotechnology was so advanced by the 2370s that it could create replacement organs, fully functional and ready to deploy. While this would require a holographic emitter on hand at all times, it was a massive leap forward in tech. However, as presented in the episode, Neelix's lung is supported by a hollow chamber and he is paralysed as it can't handle movement. You win some. Number 3. It generally creates realistic background characters. Just don't push them too far. While episodes like The Big Goodbye and 11001001 introduced smarter, interactive holographic characters to the holodeck, they were a far cry from truly sentient lifeforms. Moriarty may have been designed to defeat Data, but Minuet was only ever a test for Riker. A memorable one at that. By the 2380s, holographic technology had advanced significantly, but holodeck programs still had their limits. Aboard the USS Cerritos, Brad Boimler took charge of the sequel to Beckett Mariner's Crisis Point program, to varying levels of success. As Bucephalus Dagger, Boimler was fully capable of leading. However, encumbered with the death of his twin, Boimler suddenly found himself unable to operate within the parameters he set himself from the beginning. No longer interested with the spy and search plot, he instead switches his focus to the meaning of life. Those poor holograms really weren't prepared for that. Cue a journey in search of Kitty Ha, the existential destination putting Shaka Ree to shame. However, unlike the greatest Trek film of them all, the eventual reveal that the holographic characters managed to come up with was the reveal that Kitty Ha was, in fact, a sign reading Kitty Hawk, and their destination was the Wright brothers' plane. Confused? You should be, because those holograms were too. The moral of the story was holodecks and holograms are adaptable, but everything has limits. It's okay though. The horsey is going to bite you now. Number 2. The most dangerous game of all. TV movies. Unusually for a 2-part episode, and not to be confused with earlier outings like Caretaker, Star Trek Voyager's 4th season serial, The Killing Game, was aired with both parts on a single night. That means that Part 1 aired, finished, an ad break appeared, and Part 2 began. According to Cinefantastique Volume 30, the reaction to this story had a big impact on the evolution of the holodeck. In The Killing Game, Voyager has been overrun by the Hirogen. Most of the crew is locked in several battle simulations, including a recreation of a French town in the height of World War II. The episodes were presented as a combination of spectacle, lots of explosions, and story, with a particularly chilling scene featuring a Nazi officer convincing a Hirogen hunter to continue his brutal way of life. Quoted in the subsequent issue of Cinefantastique, co-executive producer Joe Manosky said, "Because of the success of airing The Killing Game in a single night, the network and the studio were really interested in doing a Voyager movie, a 2-part episode that aired on a single evening. This led to the TV movie Dark Frontier and also to the later TV movie Flesh and Blood. The expansion of the holodeck into the surrounding corridors inspired the Holo Station scene in that later story, which would also serve as a sequel and resolution to the Hirogen arc." Number 1. Called it. When the traditional holodeck set was designed for the next generation, finance was the decider when it came to the black and yellow box. A standard case of cost-saving creativity, this became an iconic image, one recently resurrected and sent back through time to appear in Strange New Worlds. The downside of cost-saving is a lack of detail, so it wasn't until the holosuites of Deep Space Nine that the audience got to have a look at the mechanics behind those walls. The Cardassian-designed pleasure rooms would then inspire those found aboard Voyager and that secret location used by Section 31 in 2374. All of these versions together combine to become yet another example of Star Trek predicting technology of the modern day. Where the original series offered mobile phone technology, or at least a variation of, and the Next Generation predicted the iPad, the Holodeck was a precursor to, and technically descendant of, virtual reality technology, such as VR headsets, widely available in 2025. Perhaps companies like Apple or Samsung watched Sulu and Uhura in the recreation room or Wesley Crusher fall into a creek on the Holodeck and thought, that's what we need. The advent of computer technology and imaging combined with VR headsets can effectively place the user in their very own holodeck, right down to the uncertainty of up, down or left or right. Star Trek has been ahead of the curve since the 60s, though one hopes that when the black and yellow holodeck becomes slightly more affordable, there are more ethical guidelines for the use of individuals' appearances than seem to have been in place in Holo Pursuits. That's everything for our list today, folks. Thank you so much for watching along. Did you enjoy this? Let us know in the comments below. You have been awesome, you have been wonderful. Please make sure that you're subscribed to the channel, and if you would like to pick up any of the lovely merch that we have available, you can grab so by following the link just underneath the description of this video. Please make sure you're following us on the various socials. We are at TrekCulture, we are at TrekCulture YT on Instagram, and I am at Sean Ferrick. Until I see you again, treat yourself with kindness, treat those around you with kindness, and put kindness out into the world. The world can be a bit scary, but we can make it a slightly better place if we just do our bit. Thank you so much, everyone. Talk to you soon. Live long and prosper.